and focus on the two areas. One thing I keep looking at is where the circulation is strongest. Now, it does look like it weakened just a hair there, looking at the velocity data between both of them. So they don't look as strong. That's a good sign, but doesn't mean they're going to stay that way, because we've seen what's called cycling. These storms have gone, look like they're going to produce a tornado. They weaken slightly, and then they re-intensify. But there's two areas of concern in this line moving in this direction. So the individual storms are moving this direction. The whole line is drifting this way. And I really got to focus on just not that part of the line, but the northern part of the line as well, because there could be rotations moving into parts of Burke County here and northern Cleveland County. So you see those areas of enhanced wind, and boy, the flooding issues are really going to become an issue here. It's been raining all day in parts of the foothills and back here in the mountains. So upper Burke, Caldwell County, Avery County, already under a flood warning until 10 o'clock tonight. Some of the heaviest rain we've seen all day is now moving over that area. 5 to 6 inches of rain fell earlier today, and now you're seeing rainfall rates of maybe 1 to 3 inches of rain in the same spots. And you're seeing some of this video of the flooding today. A lot of the flooding, the most devastating flooding we've seen, has been west of the Asheville area in Canton, the Pigeon River there. Their record crest was like 13.3 feet. Today, 16.3 feet was the crest, and it's still rising. So you're not just talking about a little bit above flood stage, you're talking about shattering record crests by 3 or 4 feet. So these areas up in upper Burke and Caldwell County that are seeing this heavy rain, that water's coming down slope. The Eastern Continental Divide, a lot of this water rushes to the Atlantic side and not down into the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to see that water come down through the Catawba chain and down through parts of South Carolina. So downstream, eventually, this water is going to be heading your way. So flooding is also going to be a concern on top of the tornado risk. But the tornado risk, obviously, the most immediate threat right now as we look into the Gaffney area, where we've got one rotation. And let me see if I can draw on here where we've got that rotation. We'll pull it up here real quickly. So one rotation is essentially right over the Gaffney area right there. It's really broad. It's not as tight. I would be watching this storm regularly, but it doesn't look like it's as tight as it was earlier. If we go to the south, I'll show you the other area of rotation. It's right near Jonesville. Really broad rotation. This is not what I would consider very vigorous or tight rotation, but again, because of the history of these storms, you want to issue the warning before the thing touches down. By the time we see this tighten up, then we would know there's probably going to be a tornado around. So there's our two areas of rotation, and I'll widen it out. And I'll do a quick track on these two areas of rotation. If they continue to move off to the north and east this direction at their current speed, that's a look at the timeline. So East Gaffney, 8:16, Lattimore, 8:23, Shelby, 8:30, Hickory Grove, Sharon, that's northern part of York County, around 8:45 to 8:50. Then you've got Kings Mountain, 8:53, Bessemer City, York, Gastonia, 9 o'clock, and then over towards Newport, 9:23 or so. So you get the idea, kind of the I-77 corridor, you're probably looking at a 9:30-ish time frame for this line. Now let's hope it's weakened by then. Let's hope the loss of daytime heating with the sun going down will squash these storms down. The problem is sometimes it takes a while for that residual, what we call CAPE or thunderstorm fuel, to go away. And when you got a tropical system, sometimes it doesn't matter all that much. They can linger well past sunset. And speaking of that tropical system, just to show you where the center of circulation is, there it is right there. There's Fred. They're just east of Knoxville. It is lifting north a little quicker. The drier air is wrapping around. So this line right here, this is the line. I think once this gets through, we should be relatively in the clear unless something else forms in this area, but it looks like that's not happening right now. You see that line. That's one of those big outer bands that are wrapping around. Big plume of moisture, cloud to ground, lightning wrapping all the way back into the mountains. That's why we're seeing so much flooding, because that line is basically moving directly into the mountains. So that's the line that's got to get through before we give the all clear for tonight. And that looks like it's going to be across our viewing area between now and midnight, just based on the time frame that this has been moving through. I haven't seen anything else. We got Brittany Van Voorhees in here as well. Brittany, have you noticed anything else out there currently?
It just looks like all of that rotation you've been talking about is really starting to weaken, because we don't even really have, that tight rotation that we had earlier in those cells that were, closer to Jonesville and everything. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, one of two of these, kind of broke down, because even that red and green is not as tight as it once was.
Yeah, it looks a lot weaker than earlier. Now, you're looking at pictures down from York County. That's the Chevy Storm Tracker. They're in the town of York. It looks like they might be traveling towards that storm, which is actually just to the west of them. So York is, the city of York is right there in the middle of the county. They're going to run out of daylight here shortly, so they still got a little bit of twilight here as they get about 30 minutes after sunset. I like the fact that we're seeing the trend in these kind of weaken just a little bit. Not seeing a lot of circulation. There's like Jonesville, there's still some circulation here, but it's really broad. The Gaffney circulation has certainly weakened quite a bit. If we go down the line, there's been some little spin-ups in there, but nothing that really jumps off as strong as earlier. So we would hope that trend would continue, that we're not going to see these storms continue to perk up. Now, we figured we were going to get at least 1 or 2 warnings out of this line. At one point, I think there were 6 or 7 warnings all along this line back into the upstate of South Carolina. So let's hope that it doesn't continue like that and we get fewer and fewer warnings as this pushes off to the east. Remember, if you're in the path of these storms, at least we've got some time. These haven't really snuck up on us. You need to take these warnings seriously. So if you're at home watching right now, or you're in the path of this storm and you've got some time, think about where's your safe spot. We want you to get to the middle of your house, an interior room, away from those outside walls and windows. The best place you can go in your house is find the lowest level. Get down to the first floor. If you have a basement, that's great. Not many of us do. That first floor is going to be great. Find a room in the middle of the house. Okay, this bathroom, closet, could be an interior hallway. Let's say this hallway is the best you got. You want to put as many walls between you and the outside. The whole key is here to stop debris that gets picked up by the wind and thrown at you. So the lowest level puts roofs and ceilings and floors above you. Interior puts walls between you and the outside. Those things block debris from getting into you. If you have a helmet, if you have skateboard helmet, bike helmet, hard hat, just about anything, protect your head. Head's the most important thing we want to protect in this situation, even using pillows or some kind of workbench to get under in that area. But that interior room is the key part. And bring your phone in there. The great thing is about the WCNC Charlotte app, you can pull it up right now. I mean, you can watch us stream right now anywhere over Wi-Fi or cellular. So if you could do that, that's where you go. And I will give you the all clear when the storm is passed. I always like to do that because I don't want you staying in there any longer than you have to. So once the storm has cleared your area, I will try to make sure we give an all clear for the area being impacted. So right now, the concerned area is going to be the southern part of Cleveland County and this small section of western York County, which includes the Hickory Grove area. Where the storm is right now, let's look at the velocity. So Gaffney is where one circulation in Jonesville. So the good news, if you're in York and Cleveland County, you still have time before the worst part of the storm gets there. If there is potentially a tornado in there, one is there and one is there. So this is moving up 85. So southern Cleveland County, you probably got about 5 minutes here before it's there. This storm heading towards York, you probably got more of about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes for certain sections of the county as it moves in that direction. Both warnings are set to expire at 8:45. Now the question is, do they continue these off into the future? If the circulation continues to weaken, we might not see an additional warning, or we could see these extended, which means the next counties in line are obviously going to be, again, parts of Cleveland, Lincoln, Gaston County, and probably York and Gaston County. So you folks watching from, Dallas, Denver, Lincolnton, Iron Station, Pumpkin Center, down towards Gastonia, Bessemer City, Cherville, Kings Mountain, these areas would be next if the storm continues to hold its strength and then move off to the north and east. Now, KJ's out in the Chevy Storm Tracker. They are in York County. I can see them heading in that general direction. Can't really see much off in the distance there, but it does look like that storm is still over on the other side of the county line. So where they are in central York County is still pretty far away. Central York County is right about here. The storm is way over here in Union County and Cherokee County, South Carolina. Has really not entered the North Carolina counties or western York County yet as it moves to the north and east. So let me do a track on this line just to re-up when this could be over the Piedmont, including the metro area. So that's a quick look at the track of the whole line. And you can pick out Charlotte here. So every time I do this, I see varying times, anywhere between 9:15 and 9:45. And that's why the farther out you go, there's a bigger range of possibilities with the line, depending on how fast or slow it continues to go. But that track would put it into the I-77 corridor sometime around 9:30 to 9:45. So just to give you a heads up, if you're in the Charlotte area and you're thinking about, I'm going to go to bed, charge this thing up, charge this phone up, have that sound up, have the alerts ready to go just in case we do get a warning here late into the evening, because that potentially could happen as this pushes off to the east. So I don't know, Brittany, have you seen any reports coming in from that area? Because I have not seen a single damage report come in so far. I'm looking at our spotter reports, and I haven't seen any come in there either.
Yeah, no, really the only thing was the continuing flooding potential in portions of the mountains up toward the foothills. We had multiple reports of trees down up in Avery County near Linville. That was from National Weather Service there up toward Greenville, Spartanburg. And then we're getting a little bit from earlier today from about 5:30 there for parts there of the Columbia area. But in terms of right now, I mean, you've been saying it yourself, a lot of that rotation starting to weaken. I mean, we do have some pretty decent rainfall totals. If in the back you guys want to pop up a weather too, we can actually kind of show you some of what has been estimated, at least in terms of rainfall totals thus far. We have had portions, west of Asheville. Brad has been talking about a lot of significant flooding there. In fact, if you take a look, you can see the purple spots, the pink spots shading there, anywhere of 6, even 7 inches. And, in these tropical systems, because of that southerly wind that kind of wraps around them, on that southeastern side of any mountain range, really across all of the Carolinas, you can get that really significant flooding and runoff that just continues to go all the way down the streams and rivers there. Now, in our local spots, a little bit closer to areas like Pineola there, up toward Boone, Blowing Rock, Banner Elk, areas like that. I'm going to plot some of these on so you guys can see. Spots shaded in yellow, closer to about 2 to 3 inches. You travel a little bit further south there, again on that southeastern side of the mountains. We do have a few spots anywhere between 5 to even 6 inches there. Linville, I just mentioned that. Have some trees down. That could have been from wind damage earlier. Of course, sometimes the flooding threat, if it moves quickly enough, it can cause it as well. If you go a little bit further south, we kind of have a block area, I'd say closer to the Charlotte metro, that really hasn't seen a lot of significant rain. I know, Brad, you're going to be watching that as these storms move north for the potential of, a little bit of instability there for something to pop up. But really, it's the foothills up toward the mountains and actually our most southern areas of southern North Carolina into portions of Chester, Lancaster, and even Chesterfield counties that we've seen a few other areas of really just heavy rainfall. I'm going to plot on a few more of these there on the southern side of Chester, where we did have a lot of heavy rain and even a tornado warning earlier. You can see the spots in the orange, the yellow, as you kind of travel up and down 321, 3 inches, 2 inches of rain. And, this is just from today. So we're not talking about rainfall from the past 3. We're talking Tuesday alone. We had rain significant on Monday, Sunday, and Saturday. You may remember we kind of had some widespread strong storms. So flooding, of course, continues to be a threat. We do still have a flood watch in effect for portions of the area. You can see that until about 8 o'clock. That does mostly include the mountains and the foothills, but we've seen the past week or so in the Charlotte metro that when you get heavy rain over a short period of time, it can really do some damage there. Flash flood threat is still highest for today, but even tomorrow, as kind of Fred's most outer bands kind of continue, we'll still have a low threat there on the east side of the Carolinas, but thankfully by Thursday, a lot of that does look to subside. I know, Brad, you said this plenty of times, but have a way to get those warnings overnight. One of those most significant, severe storm threats is when people are sleeping, they don't have a way to get those alerts. So we'd say have at least 3. You can download the WCNC First Warn Weather app. Those wireless emergency alerts that are built into your phone. Social media will be updating that. Of course, you can watch us on air or stream us live, actually online and on our app, or that NOAA weather radio. I'd say is always a good tool to have with situations like this.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the app, because let's come back to the radar here, because I've had a lot of questions. So the sirens are going off in all of York County. even in the Rock Hill, Fort Mill, TKK area. Here's the problem. There's no warning currently for that area. So tornado sirens or any kind of siren system is really not a great way to get warnings unless you're outdoors, and they're always activated by the whole county. So you can see the warning only includes the western part of the county. So I had a question on Twitter, which is a valid question. Hey, why are the sirens going off in York County, in parts of the county, and I'm not getting alerts on my phone? Well, your phone is based on whether you live inside this warning polygon. If you live in Rock Hill, TKK, Fort Mill, your phone should not be going off. The sirens are going off because the county issues them for the whole county, even though the warning is for the western part. So the phone is going to underwarn you. It's basically not going to scare you for a storm that's not near you. So if you're in this warning polygon, anybody in this part of the county should be getting an alert on their phone, but they have activated the sirens in all of the county. In fact, Tanya Mendez, our reporter, said the sirens are going off there in Fort Mill. But right now, Fort Mill, you currently aren't under a tornado warning, so there should be no reason for the sirens to go off. We just did get some breaking news out of Avery County. Avery County schools will be closed tomorrow because of the flash flooding and dangers up in that area. So we're getting some school closures up in the Avery County and the mountains areas because of all that heavy rain. Now, this warning is going to continue till 8:45, but honestly, the rotation part is still not in either of the counties in our area that are under the warning, which is Cleveland County and York County. And honestly, the northern storm has weakened quite a bit. There was a circulation right there near Gaffney, but it's moving up here and it looks much weaker. Now, there is still a circulation right here now. It's over the Ashboro area, Wilkesville. I'm not familiar with that. That town is a new town to me. That's just west of the York County. That's in parts of Cherokee and Union County, South Carolina. There's still some rotation. Ooh, that just tightened up just a hair right there. So just with the latest volume scan, that did tighten up right there. So this definitely got a little stronger. And you saw that as I was actually chatting. The radar swept by and updated. We get 1-minute updates. So there is a pretty significant turning of the wind here. Really strong here, weak here. And so what's going on is, just to illustrate again what's going on, the winds are going like this away from the radar, and here they're coming in. So we've got that rotation. If there is a tornado, at least based on radar, it's going to be right there. So that circulation is actually, in the last scan of the radar, is definitely more impressive. So let's track that, because of the two storms, that one is the one that probably poses the biggest risk. So let's track that into parts of York, Gaston, and Cleveland County. So there's a look, basically heading towards Blacksburg, 9 o'clock, Grover, 9:07, Kings Mountain, 9:22. So plus or minus about 5-10 minutes, that's the circulation. So there's 85 right there. 85 tracking up and down. It's moving off to the northeast at 30 miles an hour. So it looks like it's going to stay just south of I-85 as that storm continues to move off in that direction. So the northern storm is weakened quite a bit. The southern storm is a little bit stronger. And that's why there's a warning for that small section of western part of York County. Now, again, if you're watching in the Rock Hill, Fort Mill, TKK, those areas, that the sirens are going off, and I'm not a big fan of sirens because they just go off for random reasons. They don't go off just because of warnings. They're going off, I guess, because the whole county is alerting, even though the warning is only for the western part of the county. So I had some legitimate questions. People said my phone didn't get off, but the sirens are going off outside my house. Well, if you live in this area, your phone should not be going off because you're technically not in the warning polygon, but they have alerted the whole county with warning sirens. So that's why the sirens are going off. If you're getting a siren right now and your phone's not going off, by definition, the wireless emergency alerts and our alerts for our app are only for people's phones that are within this warning polygon. So that's the reason that's happening, because we're getting a lot of tweets and comments about that over in the Rock Hill, Fort Mill, TKK area where we do have sirens. So again, this whole line moving off to the east at about 30 miles per hour. Let me quickly track this thing as it moves off in that direction. I'm going to go here. Looks like I lost contact with the computer here. So let me load this back up. Try this again. So we're going to track this whole line pushing off in this direction. There we go. So there's the line, updated track. So if it continues moving out of the warned area, that's where it would be going. Kings Mountain, 8:47, Bessemer City, closer to 9 o'clock. which is coming up in about 30 minutes. Gastonia 9 o'clock. And again, every time I do this, the Charlotte time changes just slightly because we're getting further out into the future here. But let me make sure we have the same speed on this system. So we'll do one more track. So just, I had someone ask, hey, I want to go to bed at 9. Can I go to bed? Is it going to be safe by then? Well, probably 9:30. We're probably going to have some storms moving into the metro, maybe as late as 10 o'clock. Looking at this, 9:41 with that track into the Charlotte area. So certainly you can go to bed, but make sure you keep that phone charged up with your alerts cranked up and you have a place to go. Before bed, maybe clean out that closet or your safe spot. The thing about these storms, always have a plan. These things can be a little scary at times, but if you have a plan, it's a lot easier to deal with these. And that's all we really ask you, is to have a plan ahead of time and not think about where you're going to go in the heat of the moment when the storm pops up. That's not the time to think of where to go. And everyone in your house needs to know, where is that safe spot? If there is a warning issued, hopefully you have 15, 20 minutes, but oftentimes in these, if you're watching TV, you get them. Hopefully you get it on your phone. You may not get it either one of those ways. Someone might call you and you might have even less time. So the goal is to try to give you these warnings as far in advance so you can get to that safe spot. But sometimes they only come in about 13 or 14 minutes ahead of time. So as we track this line, I think this is going to be what we're going to have to watch for the rest of the evening, is if we get additional warnings as this moves through. And I'll be honest, this line is not in a big hurry to move across the area. I'm going to loop that a couple of times just to give you an idea. It looks like it's moving faster than it is, but I think it's deceiving because the individual little showers or cells within the line are rotating back this way, but the line itself is barely pushing off to the east at only, it says 30 miles per hour, but that is really odd to see that moving off to the east. So I had some comments about people, their phones going off in Fort Mill, which is weird. They should not be going off in Fort Mill unless you're getting warnings for the whole county, because the warning is not for the eastern part of the county. So it doesn't mean there wouldn't be a warning down the road, but the only place in the warning is the area in purple. So we don't issue warnings for whole counties. We're based on polygons right now. That's that area in yellow. So the storm track takes it into the western part of York County and into parts of Cleveland County. So those should be the only areas that you're receiving alerts for. Now, obviously on TV, our entire viewing area, everybody's getting an alert right now because we're on TV. That's why we break in. These are our counties that we're responsible for. So Cleveland County and York County, these could be extended into parts of Gaston and maybe even Lincoln County. I think that's the next area as they move up towards the north and east. And again, remember, tornado watch is up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, will it last that long? I think the threat could be out of here a little bit sooner, but there are some indications this could linger for a while overnight. And the difference between a watch and a warning, remember, we use our cupcake analogy to help you out here. A watch means ingredients are there. In this case, the cupcake watch, which means we have all the ingredients for a cupcake. Once we have one, there's a warning. So when there's a warning, it's a finished product. There's a tornado on the ground spotted by a trained spotter or the public or law enforcement, or it's been detected on radar. But when there's a watch, the ingredients are there for the storm to happen. So that's what we've seen most of the afternoon. The watch is up for hours and for a big area where the ingredients are in place. The warning is up for a small area, only in the small part of the county, and that's why you see that polygon up and why we only have a warning for a small section there of western York County. So I'm not seeing any ground truth so far to this. That's the good news. The fact that we don't have any reports of damage, most of the reports we're getting right now are coming out of the mountains where we're getting all kinds of flash flooding issues. In fact, even around McDowell County, we're getting reports of a mudslide and several debris flows up in that area. So a lot of flash flooding in McDowell County. And that's with this line. That's the thing about this line. Even though it's producing tornadoes down here, that line extends all the way back up here into Burke County, parts of McDowell County, northern Cleveland County. South Mountain State Park is getting pummeled with heavy rain. Huge waterfalls, and they are probably all raging right now as that water moves back into the mountains. And we do have several flash flood warnings in effect for the mountains. And because of that, we do have a couple of school closures, at least right now. I think in Avery County, the only one, but it may not be the only one. Burke, Caldwell, Avery, and Watauga County, all under flood warnings between 10 p.m. at midnight tonight. So we want to make sure folks in the mountains are being safe as well as that flash flooding continues to head your way. So again, I know we're just tuning in. If you're just flipping over, there's our 2 tornado warnings. The circulations have weakened quite a bit, except for this area right here, which is just to the south of Gaffney. This is the only area of circulation that looks strong right now. And to me, that's the one area where we could have rotation. So York County's kind of missing the worst of this, which is good news. We're not seeing a ton of this heading into York County. This looks like the circulation's heading more up 85 now towards Blacksburg and then going into the southeast corner of Cleveland County, eventually heading into western parts of Gaston County, northwest Gaston County. So this is going to be towards Earl, Grover, Patterson Springs, Kings Mountain area. So these are the areas that we're getting a little more concerned about because the rotation is a little stronger there. York County, you're not completely in the clear yet, but the western part, we're breathing a little sigh of relief right now because the storm is showing some signs of weakening. The eastern part of the county. So if you live in Rock Hill, Fort Mill, TKK, Lake Wiley, be on guard, but you're not in a warning right now. We're not in a warning just yet. We're only watching this system right now as the circulations are way back to the west in Cherokee County. That's where we're seeing the worst of the weather right now, moving off to the north and east. Brittany, have you seen anything that changed in the last couple minutes here? Because I haven't seen any reports come in.
Yeah, no, the last really correspondence at all from the National Weather Service there for Greenville, Spartanburg was them just talking about the storm in Cleveland County. No answer yet. You mentioned, of course, the flash flooding for parts of McDowell County. I mean, the strong rotation, I mean, tracking out the storm is pretty much the only thing that I've been keeping a close eye on right now. No reports on social media thus far, but if you are seeing stuff, definitely do let us know. Now, it's important, of course, to remember during these tornado warnings that this is an active situation. I know Brad had mentioned that as well before. And you should always find that safe spot in your home. You know, interior room away from windows is the most important place to be. As you take a look at this graphic we put together, you can see that that closet there is the most important part there. In this certain home, it's of course away from any kind of windows. It does have those multiple walls, you know, in between, of course, you and your family and hopefully your pets too. Do remember to take them in there as well. If you have outdoor dogs, outdoor cats, if possible, make sure they can get inside, but just do be safe with that. Other than that, of course, just having that way to get alerts, lowest level of your home. Many, of course, in the southeast do have those ways to get alerts there, and of course do have those basements, but many don't. So a good reminder of that. Also, if you live in an apartment complex or a condo complex, always try to get to the lowest level there, and interior stairwells in that case are going to be your friend in that case. Of course, the tornado watch is in effect for most of our area until about 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. Brad's mentioned that it's unlikely if we can get those cells that are kind of moving through right now all the way through that outermost rain band from Fred, that this could be over a little bit earlier than that. With tropical systems, you know, oftentimes during a typical severe weather event, we tell you, oh, once the atmosphere is stabilized, you're good to go. With tropical systems, though, especially on the east side, which is where we are, there's still a lot of moisture in the atmosphere that can allow for instability to, of course, last overnight, which is something that we're watching, and one of the reasons why they have extended that tornado watch until 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. Of course, today, positive news, right? Since the day is getting close to the end there, is our best risk for these storms. So that tornado risk, you see that in red, is high for most of the area, but at least today is the big day. Rapid improving conditions by later tomorrow, although the flooding will remain a pretty notable potential there. Rotating storms, of course, a big reason why we get those tornado watches and warnings. Still flood watch in effect as well for parts of the foothills and, of course, the mountains. Excessive rainfall outlook is really going to be our biggest threat the next few days, kind of once this major event has pushed away. It's not just because of today's rainfall and, of course, storms. It's the fact that we've had over multiple days in a row. We had significant rainfall and flash flooding really all the way since last Wednesday, and we just kind of saw that continue off and on. Now, tomorrow's flash flood threat is a little bit lower, but most of that is going to be with Fred moving away. It doesn't mean that pretty much everyone's going to be out of the woods there just yet. But not seeing anything changing here so far, Brad. I know you've mentioned over toward Gaffney. It's that area just to the southeast that we're still seeing that rotation. But I don't see any kind of hook echo, no inflow notch trying to develop there. So it doesn't look to be at this point, really strong rotation, I would say.
Yeah, we continue to watch that cell because it doesn't look like it's as strong, but there seems to be a new circulation trying to form in this. And you can see that circulation forming. Basically, it looks like just southwest of Blacksburg. So there was two separate areas of circulation, Brittany, and I think I kind of consolidated into one right there along 85. So I think that's the area that we're watching where that we definitely could see a spin up there, but it doesn't look as strong as earlier. This line was a much worse looking line back into the upstate of South Carolina. I'm going to look at a different radar, and I can still see a little hint of that rotation there. East of the Gaffney area, there's Cherokee Falls. So there's a little hint right there of some circulation. And then we go down towards areas a little bit further south of there. It doesn't look like as much rotation. Now, one thing I have noticed right here and near Surratt is a big uptick in lightning. And you're probably saying, well, it's no big deal, lightning, right? Sometimes we see lightning jumps when these storms start to spin up. So that caught my eye immediately, that we've got something trying to spin up right there because there is a lightning jump in that area. So that's an area to watch potentially that could start to spin back up because when you see that, that usually means the updraft is getting stronger. We have not seen a lot of lightning in the storms today. That's not typical of tropical systems because we get really shallow storms. But the fact that we're getting this storm to get tall enough where ice crystals are forming at the top of the storm, that's where we're starting to see a taller storm that could have more potential to develop some rotation in it. And right there is an area where we're seeing that right now. So it's also pushing out. It looks like the wind's pushing out there. So maybe become an outflow dominant, but watch these little kinks up here. This pushes out, that pushes out. Spin up could happen right in that area, basically just south of the Gaffney area. So we're just south of, the Cherokee Falls area, heading towards Kings Creek and then Smyrna. That area right there on the York-Cherokee County line. That's the area where we would see that. So looks like the warning was allowed to expire. They did let these expire here at 8:45, so we're not going to see a continuation of that. But we're going to watch these very carefully all day long. We have seen this line. You see the numerous flash flood warnings in that line. So even though the warning has expired, we likely could see additional spin-ups. So the warning has completely gone away. We're going to go back to programming here. But we're going to be on this for the rest of the evening. I'm going to keep an eye on this line. For folks asking me, what's the timeline for this and can I go to sleep? I'm going to tell you, this line has got to get through the area first before we're all in the all clear. If this is the last line, which it looks like it could be, this will give you a quick idea on the timeline there. So just a heads up, Cherville, 9 o'clock, Newton, 9:20, Gastonia, 9:30, Rock Hill, 9:40, Charlotte, around 10 to Statesville, Matthews, Mint Hill, 10:20 to 10:30, Concord, 10:36, and then Salisbury around 8:48. So until that line moves through, we're still going to have the risk for an isolated tornado. I'll keep an eye on this. We'll have updates throughout the evening. If we do get any more warnings, of course, we'll cut back in. And, of course, we'll have coverage online, on air, and on our app throughout the evening. We're now going to return to your programming already in progress.